I never thought a weekend camping trip for our anniversary would end up haunting me for the rest of my life, or whatever is left of it. My name is Jason, and this is the story of the black mirror we found buried in the woods, and the woman who lives inside it. It started innocently enough. Tara and I had been together for 3 years. She was the kind of girl who lit up every room she walked into. Bright green eyes, messy brown hair that always smelled like vanilla and pine, and a laugh that could chase away any bad day. We were both in our mid-20s, finishing up college, and we needed this trip. Just the two of us. Deep in the forests of Northern California, far away from exams, part-time jobs, and the constant buzz of city life. Tara loved the wilderness more than anyone I'd ever met. She'd grown up hiking with her dad, and she always said the trees felt like old friends. I wasn't as passionate, but I loved her enough to follow her anywhere. So when she suggested we celebrate our anniversary by camping somewhere remote, I didn't hesitate. I found what looked like a perfect spot on the map, secluded, beautiful, with a creek nearby. The drive up was perfect, windows down, her favorite indie playlist playing, her hand resting on my thigh as we talked about everything and nothing. She teased me about my terrible sense of direction, and I joked about how she'd probably adopt a wild animal before the weekend was over. Everything felt right, the kind of right that makes you believe nothing bad could ever touch you. We passed the first campground around noon. It was crowded. Families, RVs, kids running around. Tara wrinkled her nose and shook her head. No way. I want us to be completely alone. Let's go further north. I smiled and kept driving. 30 more miles. The road got narrower, the trees taller and closer together, until the sunlight barely reached the ground in some places. The second campground we found was different, empty, abandoned, looking. A couple of dumpsters knocked over, vines crawling over the trails like they were reclaiming the land. An eerie quiet hung in the air, broken only by distant bird calls. "This is perfect," Tara whispered, her eyes sparkling with excitement. We hiked in for about 3 hours, packs heavy on our backs, stopping every so often to kiss under the dappled light filtering through the canopy. The air smelled of damp earth, resin from the pines, and that fresh, alive scent you only get deep in old forests. We laughed about school, about our future, about the silly arguments we had over whose turn it was to do the dishes. At one point she stopped, turned to me, and said softly, "I can't wait to grow old with you, Jason, just like this." My heart swelled. I pulled her close, breathing in her vanilla scent mixed with sweat and forest. "Me too, babe, every single day." As the sun began to dip lower, painting the sky in oranges and deep reds, we saw it, a snake slithering across the path. Tara screamed and bolted a few yards away, her face pale. She was fearless in almost every way, but snakes were her one weakness. I chuckled and called out, "Why'd it have to be snakes?" quoting Indiana Jones. But she didn't get the reference. I gently shooed the snake toward the creek, whispering to it like an idiot, "Sorry, buddy, no pets allowed. She'd kill me." When I turned back to the path, Tara was gone. Not far, I thought, but those few minutes alone in the growing shadows felt. Off the woods seemed quieter, too quiet. A strange heaviness settled in my chest, like the air itself was watching me. Premonition, maybe, or just paranoia from being so isolated. Then I heard it, the sound of frantic digging. I found her on a small hill between 3 tall pine trees arranged in a near-perfect triangle. Tara was on her knees, clawing at the dry, hard-packed dirt with her bare hands. Her nails were torn, blood mixing with the soil, streaking down her arms in dark rivulets. She didn't seem to feel any pain. Her breathing was ragged, eyes wide and unfocused, like she was in some kind of trance. "Tara, what the hell are you doing?" I shouted, rushing over. I grabbed her shoulders, trying to pull her back. She spun around with surprising strength and bit down hard on my hand. The pain was sharp, hot. Blood welled up instantly. I recoiled, stumbling back a few feet, staring at her in shock. She didn't even look at me. She just turned back and kept digging, faster, more desperately, dirt flying everywhere. I sat down on a fallen log, pressing my wounded hand against my shirt, watching her in a daze of confusion and growing dread. Why wasn't I stopping her more forcefully? Something in the air felt thick, heavy, like invisible hands were pressing down on my shoulders. The light was fading fast now, long shadows stretching like fingers across the ground. Finally, a last weak ray of sunlight pierced through the pines and hit whatever she was uncovering. It reflected back, black, glossy, unnatural. Tara gasped, fell backward onto the dirt, and started crying. "Jason." I snapped out of it and rushed to her, pulling her into my arms. Her body was trembling cold despite the warm evening. "I'm here. I'm here. It's okay." I helped her to the log and turned toward the hole. I knew I had to see it. I had to cover it back up. The object was a mirror, small, maybe the size of a large book, made of what looked like polished obsidian, perfectly black, edges sharp and clean despite being buried. No scratches, no wear. It looked brand new, which was impossible. I knelt down, heart pounding heavily in my chest. The air around it felt colder, like stepping into a walk in freezer. A faint, musty smell rose up, damp earth mixed with something sweeter, almost like old perfume or decay. I reached for a handful of dirt to bury it again when my eyes locked onto the surface. Inside the mirror wasn't my reflection. It was an old woman. She sat in a wooden chair in what looked exactly like this clearing, those same 3 pine trees forming a triangle behind her. She wasn't moving, but it felt alive. More real than any photograph. Her face was wrinkled, eyes sunken, gray hair hanging limp. She stared straight ahead with an expression of infinite patience or hunger. My breath caught. A drop of blood from my bitten hand fell onto the glass with a soft plop. The old woman's eyes slowly opened wider and looked directly up at me. A chill ran down my spine so intense, it felt like ice water poured over my bones. I stumbled back, heart hammering wildly. Tara was still crying softly behind me. "Don't look at it, Jason, please." But I had already looked, and something had looked back. That night, we barely slept. We moved our tent as far away as we could, but the feeling followed us. The woods seemed alive with whispers, branches creaking like old bones, leaves rustling like dry whispers. Tara clung to me, her body unusually cold. "I don't know what happened," she murmured against my chest. It was like something was calling me, pulling me there. I stroked her hair, trying to comfort her, but my mind kept replaying that image, the woman in the mirror. Her eyes, the way the reflection didn't quite match the real world around us. The next morning, Tara seemed different, not drastically, but small things. Her laugh was a little quieter, her movements a bit more deliberate. When I suggested we pack up and leave early, she hesitated. "Maybe we should check on it again, just to make sure it's buried." I stared at her. "Are you serious?" She shrugged, smiling that same warm smile. But it didn't reach her eyes fully. "I just feel like we shouldn't leave it exposed." Against my better judgment, we went back. The mirror was still there, partially uncovered. I started shoveling dirt back in with my hands, but Tara stopped me. She picked it up carefully, wiping the surface with her sleeve. The glass was impossibly smooth, cold to the touch, even in the morning sun. "Don't," I whispered. Too late, she held it up, and both of us looked. The old woman was closer this time. Her chair had moved forward slightly in the reflection. Her eyes were sharper. And behind her, in the mirrored world, I could swear I saw movement shadows shifting between the trees that weren't there in reality. Tara's breath hitched. "She's beautiful in a way ancient." I snatched the mirror from her and threw it back into the hole, covering it frantically. My hands shook the whole time. That night, the dream started. In the dream, I was standing in the clearing again, but I was alone. The mirror lay on the ground, fully uncovered. When I looked down, my reflection wasn't me. It was the old woman smiling with my mouth. Her voice, raspy, ancient, whispered from my own throat. "It's been so long since I've felt young." I woke up gasping, covered in sweat. Tara was sitting up beside me, staring into the darkness of the tent. Her eyes reflected the faint moonlight strangely. "I had a dream too," she said softly. She spoke to me. Over the next 2 days, things unraveled slowly, like a thread being pulled from a sweater, until the whole thing comes apart. Tara started forgetting small things, where we put the camp stove, what day it was. She would stare at her hands for long minutes, turning them over as if seeing them for the first time. At night, she would whisper in her sleep, words in a language I didn't recognize, low and guttural. The air in the tent grew colder each night, even though the days were warm. Sometimes I'd wake up and feel like someone was breathing right next to my ear, slow and patient. I started noticing changes in my own body too. My hand, where she bit me, wouldn't heal. It throbbed constantly, and the wound looked older somehow. The skin around it wrinkled slightly, like it was aging faster than the rest of me. On the third night, I confronted her. "Tara, something's wrong. We need to leave. Now." She looked at me with those green eyes that suddenly seemed deeper, wiser. "Jason, don't you feel it? Freedom? She's been trapped for so long, she just wants to live again." My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" Tara smiled sadly. She showed me everything. Her life centuries ago. A witch, they called her. They buried the mirror to trap her soul, but mirrors can work both ways. Blood opens the door. I grabbed her shoulders. "This isn't you talking." She leaned in close, her breath cold against my face. "Maybe it's not, but maybe I don't mind." That was when the real horror began. I tried to drag her out of the woods the next morning. She fought me, not violently, but with a quiet determination that terrified me more. She was stronger than she should have been. Her nails dug into my arms, leaving marks that burned. We struggled near the clearing, and somehow we both fell toward the mirror, which had been uncovered again. I landed hard, staring directly into it. The old woman was standing now, young, beautiful. Her eyes were Tara's eyes, and behind her, in the reflection, Tara. My Tara was sitting in the chair, old and wrinkled, screaming silently. I felt a pull, like my soul was being stretched. Pain exploded in my chest. Visions flooding my mind. Centuries of isolation, watching the world through glass, waiting for someone foolish enough to bleed on the mirror, the hunger, the loneliness, the endless patience. I screamed and smashed my fist into the obsidian. It didn't break. Instead, it rippled like water. Cold black liquid splashed over my hand, burning like acid but freezing at the same time. "Tara," No. The thing wearing Tara laughed softly. You can't destroy it. Not without destroying us both. In that moment, I made my choice. I grabbed the mirror and ran toward the creek. The one with the clearest water. She chased me, screaming, and that ancient voice mixed with Tara's branches whipped my face. Roots tripped me, but I kept going, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. At the water's edge, I held the mirror high. The young woman in the glass reached out, her hand pressing against the surface from the other side. Please, she whispered in Tara's voice. I just wanted to live again, to love again. For a second, I hesitated. The love I felt for Tara warred with the terror. But I knew if I didn't do this, the real Tara would be trapped forever in that endless reflection, aging alone while this creature lived my life. I smashed the mirror against a rock. Once, twice. On the third strike, it shattered with a sound like 1,000 screams. Black shards flew everywhere, cutting my hands deeply. The cold exploded outward, a wave of freezing air that knocked me off my feet. When I woke up, it was dark. Tara was lying beside me, breathing shallowly. Her eyes fluttered open, green, warm, familiar. Jason, what happened? I held her close, crying for the first time in years. We were both alive. The mirror was gone, just black dust and shards washing away in the creek. But the story doesn't end there. We made it out of the woods. We went home. For weeks. Everything seemed normal. Tara laughed again. We made love. We planned our future. But small things kept nagging at me. Sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking, she'd stare at her reflection in mirrors for too long. Her smile would linger a second too late. At night, I'd wake up to find her sitting up, whispering in that strange language again. Last week, I cut my finger in the kitchen. A drop of blood fell on the bathroom mirror while I was cleaning. For just a moment, behind my own reflection, I saw her. The old woman, young now, smiling with Tara's mouth. She winked at me. I smashed that mirror too. But I know it's not over. The mirror in the woods was just one. There are others. And now something inside me feels different, older, hungrier. If you ever find a black mirror buried in the woods, especially between 3 pine trees in a triangle, run. Don't look. Don't bleed. Because she is still waiting, and she is very, very patient. Sometimes I catch Tara staring at me with those ancient eyes, and I wonder, which one of us really came back from those woods?